Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I don't know if you guys know this yet or not, but Let's Resin has just released a new colored epoxy resin, and this one is turquoise. So they very kindly sent me some to try out and see how I like it. Now in the package you get your bottle of A, which is the color, which is turquoise. Now it is a transparent color, and then you get your hardener, and then you also get the detailed instructions like they give you in all of their stuff. So we are going to kind of do an extension-ish of another video that I did of the Gothic Skeleton Bride, and Janice Page, whose name just popped up there, had asked if I was going to do a skeleton groom, so I decided that why not? She does need her man, right? Otherwise, what is she all dressed up for? So that's what we're going to do today. So I am just pouring in my resin so that I can mix it. Now I do transfer cups. I like measuring it in the silicone cups and then mixing it in my hard plastic cups. It's just a lot better, and I like to reuse them, so that's why they look all kind of gross and nasty, but it's fine. It's fine. And I am using my ISTOYO mixer. I love the AI feature on it, and I don't have an issue with bubbles using it, so it's great. I do recommend always with any mixer that you use to kind of go along the edges and the bottom of your cup just to make sure that everything is thoroughly mixed in. Now, I don't want it completely transparent. So I am going to add just the tiniest drop of Let's Resin's Ocean White Pigment Paste to this just to kind of make it semi-opaque. Like, it's still going to be somewhat see-through, and that's fine, but I just don't want it 100% see-through and clear. So what I'm going to do now is I am adding some of the resin into it, and then I've got these glass beads. I think they're like for a vase filler or whatever, and I'm going to kind of just start plopping some of these in. Now, I wasn't 100% sure what kind of effect I was going to get. I've never done this before, but I can see them through the mold, so I do know that I don't have my consistency too wrong as far as the opaqueness of it. And then I'm going to kind of give them a little mix around, move the balls so that they're kind of more evenly kind of spread in there, add a little bit more resin, add some more of the balls, and then I'm just going to fill it until right before you get to where the teeth are. And the reason for this is if you watch the Skeleton Bride one, I did kind of like a solid color for the top of her head, and then her teeth, I use those mosaic colored shell pieces. Well, I kind of want to make them, I want to make them go together. So we're going to kind of do the same thing for him as well. So in hers, I did the teeth, so that's what we're going to go with on here. And once I get to the level that I need, I am just going to hit it with my heat gun real quick. We're going to let this dry, and 24 hours later, here we are. Now it's time for the second part. Now, I am adding a tiny bit of resin just to get it all the way around. You know how sometimes when you are doing multiple layers, you kind of get like the line of bubbles connecting the layers? Well, I want to make sure that I don't get that. Not that I ever have an issue with Let's Resin's resin. I mean, it's virtually bubble free no matter which one you use. But I just want to kind of coat it with the resin first, and then we're just going to start dumping these shells in. I do not want any clear resin layers, so I want it packed full of these shell pieces. So I'm going to slowly add in my resin, mix it up, making sure that all of the shells are covered and whatever, and then giving it kind of like a second to settle and find its level to see how high up that resin is coming, because your resin's going to rise to the top, and that's where that clear layer is going to be. So if I keep seeing the clear layer, then I'm just going to add more shells until I don't have that issue anymore. A little bit of isopropyl alcohol just to kind of pop any bubbles that I may incorporate from mixing all of these shells in here like I am. And we're just going to keep going until I hit the bottom part of his teeth. So it'd be like the top part on how you're looking at the mold now, but it's actually like his bottom jawline, because we're going to do the last layer just like we did on her with the same color that we did on the top part of his head. So it does take me quite a minute to kind of like get to that level, and I want to make sure that when I'm putting these shells in, they're laying flat as opposed to standing up, because especially like around the edges, because I don't want that to interfere with my last layer that I'm going to pour on. So I am taking my time doing it, and then if I see any spots where maybe the shells just aren't laying in the position that I want them to be, or it looks like there's a little gap there, I'm just going to kind of hand place them in just to fill those areas so that I don't have any blank spots. And then that's pretty much going to be it for this part. I am going to, once I add these last few pieces in, I don't necessarily need any more resin in here, aside from the fact that I do want to kind of just drizzle some over top of these pieces that I'm just adding, just to make sure that they are all resined nicely and, have something to adhere to. It probably, most likely, when I add the next layer, would solve any issues, but I just want to be on the safe side, so that's what I'm gonna do, because God knows I don't want any issues later on. Like, I just don't. All right, so adding the last little bit, and then it's going to be time for the next part. Now, for this last layer on him, I am just doing the same thing that I did before, only I'm not making up a whole lot of resin. I don't need a whole lot. Just 1 drop of the ocean white pigment paste, mix it up. Hopefully I get the same opacity that I got in the top layer, but, who knows? It'll be close, I think, I hope, but we'll see. And then we are just going to pour it in. Now, I am going to go over with my tool just to kind of make sure that underneath that part of the skull, where it kind of comes up over that back part that I'm at right now, to make sure that no bubbles get trapped under there, and to hit every piece of these shells, because, all the dips and grooves, because it's not a flat surface. I want to make sure that there's no bubbles kind of stuck to those areas. Hit it with the heat gun. We're just going to top it off with the last little bit of resin that I have left, which, crazily, I actually made like the exact amount of resin that I needed. Like, that never happens. I never get that lucky. I either have not enough or I have too much. So that is amazing in its own. Okay, so 24 hours later, now it's time to demold this, and these aren't very hard to demold, but I am going to spray a little bit of alcohol just on the side. And once you kind of have that seal broken, you can honestly just like flip it over, squeeze it, and it just kind of plops out. Like, watch. 2 seconds, it's done. Look at that cool effect that those fillers gave it. Like, that is awesome. I think it looks super, super cool. But we're not done, because he's looking a little plain and he needs to get dressed up for his wedding. So I decided that I was going to make a hat for him. Now, my initial thought was I wanted to make a top hat. It didn't come out that way. But in my brain now, I've never ever in my entire life worked with clay before, so I don't know what I'm doing. But it's fine. So what I thought was just to give me the basic shape that I need, and to kind of make it so I don't have to use quite so much clay, I'm going to get a styrofoam ball, cut it in half. And then we're going to start forming the hat around him. I can't really like tell you what I did is right, because I have no idea. Now, this is air dry clay, so I don't have to worry about baking it like I would if it was polymer clay, which is good, because if that was the case, I couldn't put the styrofoam in there. So I used a cookie cutter to kind of get my basic round shape for the bottom part of the hat, and I'm just kind of, I needed to add a little bit more on there, so I decided that kind of rolling it like a Tootsie Roll was kind of the way to go, to just add a little bit more to it. I am using these other clay tools. I don't know, they're like dotting tools but huge, and a little bit of water to try and like smooth it out and get rid of some of these edges. I mean, it's not working the greatest, but again, I have no idea what I'm doing. But it doesn't end up a top hat like I wanted. It's more of a bowler hat ish kind of thing. But anyway, since I don't know what I'm doing and I don't feel confident in telling you how to do this, I'm just gonna let you guys chill and just watch my process and put some music on for you, and then I will be back when we're at the next step.
In the chapel dark and grand, skeletons hand in hand, whispers fill the gloomy air. Love's eternal we declare. Candles flicker ghostly light, bones embrace through endless night. Her dress tattered but divine, his heart echoes in grim lines. Bones will break, they'll turn to dust, but our love, it's more than just. Beyond the grave, beyond the tomb, bride and groom in endless bloom. Through the shadows we will dance, in this morbid romance trance. Every creak and every moan, signs of love that we have known. In the land where shadows creep, promises that we shall keep, till the sun no longer shines, written through the ruins of time. Bones will break, they'll turn to dust, but our love, it's more than just. Beyond the grave, beyond the tomb, bride and groom in endless bloom.
Alright, I'm back. So that took me forever. Like, I cut a lot of it out, but it took me a while. Alright, so I let it dry. Now, it's mostly dry. Underneath where the air wasn't getting to it, it's not quite dry yet, but for what I'm doing with it, I think it'll be fine. I am just taking a 220 grit sand block, and I'm just very, very carefully, like, I am putting no pressure on this at all, kind of going over the edges just to get rid of the scraggly, sharp kind of points that are on there, and also to maybe try and make it semi-rounder. It's not, but it's fine. I'll just pretend that it was. Now we're moving on to the paint. Now I am using acrylic paint watered down so that it will get into all the grooves, because it did not come out very smooth at all. I don't know what these people do to make it smooth, but it wasn't doing it for me. So I am going over just the top part and this bottom rim of it with the black. And then we're going to go and we're going to take a purple and kind of go around that little, I don't know what it's called. Like the little part that goes around between the rim of the hat and the upper part of the hat, you know, whatever. But we're going to paint it purple. So this way it matches her. And I am going to go over it 2 times. I do go over it with a pearlescent paint that I cut out of there because it was just too much of the same thing. It's one thing to watch somebody paint and you can see a difference, but just to go over it 2 and 3 times with the same initial colors and not really see a change, like, actually happening is kind of boring. So I cut all of that out. But I do have 2 pearlescent type paints that I used. They're in a squeeze bottle that I got from, I think it was like Temu or something like that. And it just kind of adds like a sheen to it as opposed to the kind of matter black paint that I've got going on. And as this is drying, we are going to give our guy some eyes. So just like I did with the bride, I'm going to go with some blue rhinestones this time and do his eyeballs, and I'm just using diamond glaze in there, and I do hit it with my heat gun for a few seconds to kind of start drying that glaze so that it gets to a tacky point. It's not quite so runny, because this way, like when you're dealing with that concave kind of area, it becomes a pain in the butt because it all just wants to run to the back, and then your rhinestones in the back just kind of want to float and move around, and they don't want to stick. So if you hit it with a heat gun for a few seconds and get it tacky, not dry, but just tacky, then your rhinestones will fit on there a little bit easier, and you won't have quite so much movement if you have to kind of move one around. They don't all go like floating off to one side or the other, which is a real pain in the ass. But it's fine. So we're just gonna do that with him, and then we're gonna finish up our hat and get that on him. Now, hindsight is a wonderful thing, and again, having not done anything with clay, I wasn't necessarily 100% thinking that what I probably should have done. Like, I had a good idea with the styrofoam, and I did shave some of it out to kind of contour and fit his head like up inside of it a little bit. But the one part that I didn't think about is the fact that when I made the bottom part of the hat, maybe I should have made it closer to him, or made, I don't know, maybe I just shouldn't have used the styrofoam ball or gotten a bigger size styrofoam ball, because it kind of floats on him funny. Like, it stands up, it's not flush against his head. And, it's my fault, design issues, but, you know, it still looks pretty cool, I think. It just, don't look at them from underneath, and it'll be fine. I did decide that I needed to take out a little bit more of the styrofoam, so I am kind of shaving that out, and you can kind of see that that clay there is still a little bit wet, but again, it's not really going to matter for where we're doing it with it today. I'm just going to hot glue it onto him, and I want it kind of cocked off to the side. Now, I am going to kind of scuff up his head a little bit where that hot glue is going to set, and that's just to give it a little bit of surface to adhere to, so it's not smooth, and hopefully it'll grip into it. I'm going to clean off all the dust and all that stuff with some alcohol, and then we are going to hot glue this to his head. Again, this is kind of where it doesn't go wrong. It just, I could have done a better job if I had thought about the design a little bit better earlier on. And after we're done putting this on his head, it still looked like it needed a little bit something. So I decided, I got my little baby mini flowers, and we're going to put a flower or two on his hat just to kind of, I don't know. He's kind of got that 20s gangster kind of look going on, which is kind of cool too. But anyway, that is pretty much it. That is a wrap on this one, guys. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I will catch you guys on Tuesday and the next one. Love ya. Bye.
In the chapel dark and grand, skeletons hand in hand, whispers fill the gloomy air. Love's eternal, we declare. Candles flicker, ghostly light, bones embrace through endless night. Her dress tattered but divine, his heart echoes in grim lines. Bones will break,